So today we are talking about doulas, and if you are here with us at Dear Darby, you probably, I just got a message from her. She said she'll be here in 30, so we might be done. Hopefully we'll be done, because you guys have lives and you don't want to hang out and just hear me talk all the time. By the way, feel free to comments and all of the things, because I love the interaction of the lives. That's part of the reason why we like to do them so much. But if you're here with your Darby, then you know, or at least are familiar with the word doula. Maybe you aren't. Hello, I'm just so happy everyone is here. You're at least familiar with the word. Now, do you really know what a doula is, or what they do, or had one? I'd love to hear if anybody has had any experiences with a doula, or wanting a doula, or anything like that. So feel free to share your story. But maybe I'll tell my story real quick. So Alina is 5 years old. Well, she's 4.5 years older than me. I'm April, by the way. Sometimes you never really know who we are, right? We're sisters. But I am April. I'm 4.5 years younger than Alina. And Alina was having babies before I was. And so, in fact, her youngest are 2 years older than my oldest. So, see, we have somebody's best friend. Julie, your best friend is a doula. Oh, okay, Becca, I haven't had experience, but no one. But you're not sure if you can afford one. Okay, we're going to be talking about all of that. So, anyway, Alina was having her babies, and she asked me, I was 21 years old, asked me if I wanted to attend her birth and be her doula. And I was like, yeah, what's a doula? And she's like, oh, just somebody that comes in and helps. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So I went to her birth, and it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And I thought, like, oh my goodness, if I can birth half as well as she did, then I'm in. So fast forward a couple of years, I was having my own babies, or my own first baby, and I didn't look into a doula, but I decided to go unmedicated, and then loved it. And I just kept talking about it all over the place, all the time. Had people contacting me all the time, asking me questions, and I thought, okay, I need to probably know what I'm doing and saying. Actually, before that, I actually had one of my best friends was having her baby, and she invited me, which actually is a kind of a funny story on that. She and I were talking about her birth, and I said, I will come if you'd like me to come. And she's like, okay, well, we'll see. So I knew she was in labor, and I'm also really good friends with her husband as well. And so I texted her husband. I was like, hey, how are things going? Would you like me to come? And he's like, yeah, come, and gave me the address. And I showed up and attended her birth, and it was beautiful and wonderful, and it was fantastic. Well, come to find out after the birth, she didn't know I was coming. Her husband was just so tired. It had been like 13 hours, and the idea of somebody else that kind of knew what they were doing sounded really good to him. So he told me to come, and she didn't even know. So I showed up, and she's like, what are you doing here? But I loved it, and I loved working with her. I loved working with her husband, and I loved working with the midwives. And in fact, the midwives kept asking me if I was a doula, and I was like, no, like how do I become a doula? And so it was like through that birth that and I remember after that calling my husband and being on cloud 9, being like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to go to all the births. I need to be with women while they have their babies, because it is the coolest thing. So that's kind of what got me started. And then just, I think 3 months after that, I became certified to be a doula. So that's kind of how that happened. So what is a doula? A doula is basically a labor attendant that is hired by the couple. So they are not employed by the hospital. They're not employed by the doctor or the midwife. They're employed by the couple. And they're hired by the couple, and they offer support, so labor support in by way of physical support. So a lot of that is like counter pressure and like keeping like hands-on physical support, and then emotional support, which we can all attest that that is one of the most important aspects of childbirth for a mama. She needs that emotional support, like knowing she's going through this and it is hard. Labor is a lot of work, and having somebody there, and I mean, like, obviously her husband can be there or should be there and is there, giving support, but having someone else there that is like, okay, you're doing a really good job. This is a good sign. Whatever's happening here is a really good sign that you're getting close to this stage, or things like that. So emotional support and then informational support. So a lot of time, I mean, those of you that are pregnant or have had babies, you know that there is so many options. You have lots and lots of options, and you have things to research and figure out, and you make decisions. And then even in the moment, some things come up in your birth, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, that sounds good, or not, or what else is there? And doulas can also offer informational support with, like, okay, so this is what they're saying when they say this, or like clarifying the medical staff, or offering alternatives to things that are brought up or suggested, or just, yeah, like informational support. Does that make sense? So those are the main support roles that a doula has, and they're with the mom and with the couple the entire time. So when you hire a doula, you'll kind of figure out the details. But for the most part, as a doula, I meet them at the hospital, and I'm with them the entire time she's laboring, and even for several hours after. A lot of times I'll have mamas that want to labor at home for a while but feel like they want additional support, so I'll meet them at their home, and I'll help them in physical and emotional and informational support at home for a few hours before they head to their place of birth. As a doula, I have, like, 90% of my births I attend are in the hospital, and most of them are planned unmedicated births, but some of them are planned epidurals, and I even had a planned cesarean. So, but it doesn't mean that things won't alter. But here's a statistic for you that is really cool. Studies have shown that having a doula as a member of your birth team decreases the overall cesarean rate by 40%. The length of labor, it decreases by 25%, which is pretty cool. The use of oxytocin by 40%, and the requests for an epidural by 60%, which is incredible, right? Like, those are really huge percentage points for adding one person to your birth team. Okay, so a doula is also, because they're hired by a couple, they are also advocates for the couple. They're advocates for the mom, for the goals. So usually you meet with the doula and you discuss, like, what your goals, your birth goals are, what things you want, and she can have that in mind, have your birth plan as well, and she knows and can help attain your goals. Why would you want a doula for a planned C-section or a planned epidural? Okay, that is a really good question. It's because of those. Okay, well, first of all, for a planned cesarean, anytime you give birth, it is very vulnerable, right? It's very, vulnerable is probably the best word, I guess, but you feel really, like, exposed, and it's a really intense life experience. And so having someone there that is there to be your advocate, there to be your support system and there with you the whole time, with you and your husband, and kind of offers like a buffer as well. So even when you are having an epidural and or having a cesarean, having the emotional support is like hugely important, plus informational support in those aspects, because you're dealing with interventions anyway. And so knowing like the risks and the benefits and the alternatives and things like that. So especially because I have had a couple moms that, well, I had one mom, my one mom that had a cesarean. It was like emotionally traumatizing for her with her first birth, and she hired me as her doula for her second birth, even though she was having a cesarean, because she needed that support. And it ended up being a lot better of an experience for her. It was a lot more gentle, a lot less traumatic, a lot more of like somebody giving her permission to have a safe space too, like, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. Having a doula was the best decision ever. Soleil, that's one of my mamas, you guys. I love her. I love all my mamas. I think you're the nicest, Soleil. I'm 32 weeks. Is it too late to find and hire a doula? No, actually, so Mrs. Salis? I'm so sorry. You'll have to tell me what your name is. No, actually 30 weeks is about average of when women tend to search for, interview, and hire a doula. And it's actually a good time to do it, because then you have a good grasp on what you typically want for your birth, and the like goals and outcomes. And so it's a really good time. And Michelle, you must know her. So no way, I highly recommend one too. They are so helpful for you and your partner. Yes, they really are. And we'll talk about it, why it's so helpful for your partner as well. Where do I find one? We're going to talk about that too. Okay, Ashley, thank you. Ashley, thank you for being here and asking such great questions. Here's my outline, you guys, and you've nailed all of it. So, okay. I have like quotes on here too, so I'm just making sure. Okay, so the biggest questions we have, which somebody said up there before, when presented with the option of a doula, the biggest hindrance is I can't afford one. So that being said, there are lots of doulas out there. Doulas are becoming a lot more there are a lot more of them, which is so great than there used to be even a few years ago. So with that, a lot of doulas will offer payment plans or will accept payment plans, which can be really helpful. Also, there are a lot of doulas that will be fresh out of training and or certifying, and will have lower rates than others, which is a really good one. Or a good way to go. And then when you actually consider how, like, I realize that insurance is a thing. It's a legit thing, but there are some doulas, or there's some insurance plans that actually, if you have like an HSA or a flex spending or something like that, where it's money towards anything medical, you can use that for a doula. And at least for me, I accepted PayPal, and so I had a few moms, and I had just like an IRS number. I think I just applied for an IRS number with the government because I was a business, and I gave them my IRS number so that I feel like that's the right word, but I could be totally wrong. You'll have to figure this out with your doula, but basically I took several payments that were from HSA or flex spending. And then also you have to consider as well, if your goal is to go unmedicated, and you feel like the best way that you're going to achieve that is through having a doula, because having that support and that help, you guys, I'm telling you, the physical support, we doulas know where to hold mama to make things feel a lot more comfortable. And so if you take the cost of like an epidural, of any additional interventions, all of these things start adding up, and you end up saving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars having a doula. So plus it's just typically overall a better experience, and it feels really good to have such a positive birth experience. So I hope I adequately address that. They can't afford. Next biggest reason people tell us they can't have a doula is they only want it to be them and their husband. They want it to be intimate. They want it to feel like it's a bonding experience for just the two of them as a couple, and which is a really sweet sentiment. And I will be 100% honest with you. It is anyway. It typically is the most unifying, blessed event between a husband and a wife, partners. Like, oh, it is so fantastic to see the husband show up and support the mom, and the mom feel like she couldn't have done it without him. It is the coolest thing. And the best part about it is that when you consider, well, doulas, for the most part, will not take over the role of partner or husband. They won't. They will actually help husband, help mom. If you consider, even if you take birthing classes, a lot of the times men have the personality to want to fix things. And so having their wives in labor is kind of a difficult, well, it's a vulnerable experience even for them, just because they're watching the person that they love the most bring their child, some like a baby that they fathered, into the world, and they have very little that they can do, or they know that they can do. And so they want to fix it, but at the same time, they're not entirely sure. And so having someone there to kind of guide dad, like, okay, why don't you put your hands here? Why don't you tickle here, or rub her back, or give her some encouragement, tell her she's doing good. I can't tell you how many times I am in attending a mom and working with dad to help mom feel better, and just the encouragement that even in eye contact, it's like, and then him feeling like, oh, okay, I can keep doing what I'm doing. It's emotional support for dad as well, and physical support. And so I would actually venture to say, and I would be interested to know if any of you that have had doulas, ask your husbands what their experience was, and if they would ever have, like, attend birth, your birth, attend the birth of their children without a doula. Because typically I would say that it is the dads that are like singing praises at the end. Just like my friend that I told you the story at the beginning, it was her husband that called me and was like, hey, can you come? He was exhausted, and he was helping her a ton, and she was exhausted, and he needed some backup. He needed some help and some support, as well as that she did as well. So the next thing, also, I want to add another opposition. I don't know if that's the right word. That's not the right word. But another, like, dissenting reason why people don't buy or hire a doula is that they have an awesome midwife or nurse or doctor, and they'll be there. So that's fine, right? Like, I will be great because I have, my midwife is awesome. And which is true. Your midwife is awesome. Your doctor is awesome. Your care provider is awesome, because you wouldn't have them if they weren't awesome. So, but here's the thing. they are doing a lot of other things, and they're not typically hands-on in the moment with you, minute by minute, contraction by contraction, breath by breath, like there. Usually they are like preparing and doing other things and in and out and around. And so that's why having a doula is also really helpful there. Quick side note, another big question I get all the time is, what is the difference between a midwife and a doula? So a midwife is a care provider that they deal with everything of the delivery. They have all the clinical aspects of the delivery of the baby. A doula does not do anything clinical. She will not do any vaginal exams. She won't do any blood pressure tests. She won't take your temperature. There shouldn't be any sort of, we have no clinical training. And maybe there are some doulas that have some clinical training as like a nurse or something like that. But if you're hiring them as a doula, they shouldn't show up as a doula and do anything clinical. So if that makes sense. They should be there for support only. Because otherwise roles get confused, and it can be more of a hindrance than a help. As a doula though, there are a lot of tricks of the trade, and another live that we are going to do is because my battery is getting low, which is fine because I have my thing here. I thought I'd be okay, but it just sucked right down. But I forgot what I was saying. But we have tricks. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. We have tricks, and I'm gonna do another live about ways to assess how dilated you are without having a vaginal exam. Our body is super cool. That was cool, I said, because I was gonna say incredible and cool at the same time. But so as doulas, we learn a lot of really cool things like that. It's not clinical, but it is like assessing and knowing and like being able to read mom and listen to her and things like that. So it's really cool. A question was, how much is doula? What is the cost of a doula, Ashley? So that depends. Ooh. When I started out, when I was still certifying, because and we'll go through this too, because I had a question on how you become a doula. So I will touch on that at the end. But anywhere, I would say probably from, assume anywhere from like 400 to, if you're in some bigger cities. I just read an article that said like big cities like San Francisco, LA, New York are around 1,600. I personally, my rates, I just raised them actually, and you get a Dear Darby gown plus Alina and I as like together, and we are, I think, 1,500. And but for a long time I was 600 or 600 or 700. When I first started out, I was 350. So there's a huge range, and it really comes down to personality. So let's see, Michelle, I had a home birth and would not do it again if I didn't have a doula. Just ask my hubby, and he said no, because it's so important for me to be able to give 100%, and I couldn't give 100%. Yeah, it's so nice to have that extra person. Have you used hypnobirthing, hypnobabies? Yes. In fact, I'm a certified hypnobirthing instructor as well as is Alina. So I act like she's here. She's not, but she will be. And I love hypnobirthing. It's fantastic. They have a really, really great method. And if I didn't get any breaks from Alina, yes, Michelle. Alina was Michelle's doula just in August. So it's fresh in Michelle's mind. There are a few things that I feel like hypnobirthing is missing a little bit. And so, but I think that they do and so in my classes, I do teach hypnobirthing classes, and actually Aline and I are writing and going to be the words I'm using are in my brain, but not connecting to my mouth yet. But we are coming out with a online childbirth education course in March. And it will have some hypnobirthing aspects of it because it is fantastic. The mindset around it is really, really great. But then also we have a lot of our like tricks of the trade of our doula trade that I feel like are really valuable and really, really important. So if you are looking for an online course, be ready in March, because that is going to be coming out, and it's really good. We've been writing it, and it's fantastic. It will be in video form as well. Okay, so we have how do you hire a doula? Or where do you find a doula? Which is a huge question. Depending on where you are, that will determine how many doulas are available to you. But one of the big places I suggest that you go is doulamatch.org, I believe. Doula Match. Just Google Doula Match. Excuse me. And then you can search your town or area, and then all the profiles of the doulas around you will come up. And if there's doulas in your area, then they should know about Doula Match. As a doula, I have to pay to have my profile on there, but it's worth it because that's how a lot of people find me. So profiles will come up, and you'll be able to see pictures and read their profiles and kind of assess who is available to you. I highly recommend that you go through and you read and you see which ones that you kind of gravitate towards, and then pick like 3 and reach out to them and schedule an interview, because you will be interviewing them. You want to know if they are going to be a good fit for you, because again, this is a huge life experience for you. You want to make sure that the right people are there, that the people that you mesh the best with, that you trust the most, are going to be at your birth. So interview like 3 of them or so, and have your partner there with you, because here's the deal. They will be working with the doula, if not more than you are, just because they have to like the doula as well and trust her as well, and not feel like it's a power struggle, because then that doesn't reflect well, and mom feeling like she has to referee when she's in labor, not a good idea. So have your partner there so that you know that everybody feels good about the situation, feels good about about the team, and having that third person, including mom, dad, and then the third person as a doula, is so helpful. We have gone over in other lives before positions or counter pressures, and being able, like, one of the big ones is the double hip squeeze. So grabbing mom on the hips and pushing like this is exhausting. But when you have a second person there as a support person, you can have one person on one side and the other person on the other, and they are pushing against each other, and they can do that for hours for you. And it feels so good. It can feel really good. For the most part, I find that mamas love that. So having that third person is so helpful. So Doula Match is a great one. You can go to any, if you have a local like birth or pregnant or parenting Facebook group in your area, go there, ask for recommendations on doulas. Ask your care provider. Sometimes your care provider, their clinic or someplace like that, the hospital might have business cards. I take my business cards around to clinics and hospitals and ask them to put them in their welcome bags, and ask your friends for recommendations, things like that. But then I recommend that you, again, interview several of them to make sure that you mesh well. Okay. And then be really straight. So when you interview them, it's a good idea to have a list of questions or something. In fact, I think what I'll do, sign up, if you're not already, sign up for our emails, our recap emails of the lives. I will add, tomorrow I'll work on a PDF for good questions to ask a doula. And so that it just gives you the jumping off point, someplace to go, oh, look who's here. Hello. Scooch over. Oh, sorry. She's here. Hi. Sorry. I'm here. Take a breath. You're good. So I was just gonna say, sign up for our email because I'll put together a PDF for questions to ask a doula in an interview, and so that way you again can have you can set expectations. You can figure out if they're we had a question before, do we use hypnobirthing or hypnobabies? It'd be good to have a doula, especially if you took a hypnobirthing class, to hire a doula that is familiar with hypnobirthing, so that they can use the right terminology. They can support you in the way that you've learned. And so that's always a good idea to have expectations, roles, things that what you expect from them as far as when they're going to come to you, when you're in labor, things like that. So and they'll have obviously questions to ask you. This is essentially usually the first interview is get to know you, are we gonna work well together? So
where are you at? I don't even know.
I know. Okay.
About.
So we're talking now about how to become a doula.
Oh.
You ready for this? And if you have any questions I haven't already addressed.
Any questions?
So how to become a doula, because we have actually had a couple people reach out and want to know how to become a doula. And it's cool, you guys. It's such a good fulfilling career.
Especially if you love babies and you love being a woman and birth and all of that, you get to do all the things because you're primarily there for the mom, but you get to experience that fresh newborn baby after as well. So
yeah, I feel like oxytocin is released in me every time.
And it takes you back, and it's so being a doula, I think, is the best case scenario.
It is, because you get to go to births without being in labor.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
That is the
best. Okay, so we both certified through Doula. There are several doula certification processes out there, but Doula is the largest and the oldest. So it's DONA International. Doula International. You can get on their website and search to see if they have any workshops. So typically what it takes is a certification process. So you'll go to a workshop. It's a 3 or 4 day workshop.
Mine was 4 days. Yeah.
Mine was 3.
So just depends on the instructor. I think it
depends on the instructor. So a workshop, and then you have to read so many books from an approved reading list. You have to attend other education classes, so a childbirth education class, a breastfeeding class, several things like that, and then other things as well that you might be interested in. And then you have hands-on training. You have to attend so many births, including so many hours of attending labor. So you can't go to 3 births, but those 3 births were 2 hours each or whatever. It has to add up to so many hours and so many births. And then you have to get recommendations from the people that you worked with. So the care providers, the doctor, so many doctors, so many midwives, nurses, and sorry about that. All my things are, it's the end of the day.
Down.
And then I think you have to write an essay.
Yeah,
there's some. It takes a while.
Yeah,
honestly, it takes a while, but
it takes 2 years. At least, that's how it was.
I think I did a little faster than that, just because I was attending births at the same time. So it was,
Yeah.
so there happened to be a few times that I couldn't get the doctor to fill out my recommendation.
Yeah, that's the toughest part. The care provider doing a recommendation, because they already have so much paperwork, and it's like adding another piece on. But it's such a great way to create a relationship, and so it's worth it.
It was cool. So that when you're getting a mama that's working on her certificate, or a doula that's working on her certification, you'll find that her costs are lower. So if you're if you're worried about affording one, look for somebody that might be certifying, because typically they're the lowest at that point. And then what's really cool too is that you even though there's lots of doulas out there, everybody brings their own. First of all, it's a personality thing. Like you will find if you interview doulas, you'll find that it's like, I really like her personality, I don't like her personality. Like, it's whether or not they're trained the same or not, like it really comes down to who feels good and who trusts you. And there's some people that my personality doesn't go well with, and there's some that do. So it really is
the energy, like the energy exchange that you feel with.
Don't be worried about like that there's so many people out there, because there's space for everybody. Plus your interests. So Alina loves, like, she's a master herbalist, and she also loves like the
like mindset stuff,
like all of that, and she also has some great like exercises and things like that. So those are things that she loves. For me, I have done like belly binding, and
which I don't do. So it's like you'll find these interesting different little tweaks that some are good at and some are not as good at, but it's all about how you feel, what that interview, because you're letting this doula, did you already talk about this? You're letting this doula into your space. So you got to make sure that you work well with her, and what you are getting from her. I love to write the story after as well. I think that's really special, and so that's something I offer as well. Plus, like, I take pictures out, but I'm not a photographer. We both take pictures, but we love to take pictures because that's a huge part of her birth is I don't know,
reliving it,
the memory of it, and seeing that in pictures is really important to us. So make sure people know we're not a photographer, so we're not like doing any special.
So there are like birth photographers that you can hire, the actual photographer, but we know,
but they're not doulas.
And so, we're doulas, but not photographers. So we're willing to take the picture, but we know that you might not get as many pictures when you're actually in labor, because we are hands-on. We're working on you, and we make that clear in our communication. And once the baby's here, it's less like hands-on. So there's a lot more picture taking actually when the baby's there. So, so you'll just research and see what you like, what the doula offers, and what feels good about that. And then as a doula, to market yourself, I would say get a website, and then get on Doula Match, get on any of the like, if you certify through Doula has a website like that people can search their areas, hand out business cards to clinics. What are some of the other things I've done?
You've made brochures and gone to like what are they called? Not like farmers markets. I don't know why I'm thinking that.
Oh yeah,
but like
like having a booth.
Yeah, having a booth at
like as a vendor.
Thank you.
At different
conferences. There's you can be birth conferences, postpartum conferences, whatever. But there's lots of ways.
There are lots of ways to get your name out there. Get, and then here's the deal. Once you're in the business for a couple of years, then it's like word of mouth. Word of mouth is huge. I have so many repeat clients, and I love it, because then I get to see these babies that are now toddlers, and I have 7-year-olds out there. It's bizarre, and I love it, and it's so cool. But at the same time, on the con side of the doula world, I want to just throw it out there. It's an on-call lifestyle.
It can be a tricky lifestyle with a family,
especially with the family. But then also just in general, if you have had the experience of having an on-call life, I know that even nurses they know that there are 12 hours on, 12 hours off, or things like that. But there's a level of like anxiety when a birth gets closer, and it's like, well, I don't know, I might be at a birth. I'm not entirely like it feels a little harder to plan around, and you like we tell our clients we are on call for you 3 weeks around your estimated due date. So it's typically a week or like 2-ish weeks before and a weekish, 2-ish after, depending on like how and communication is key. So it's like when mom has her appointments, and she usually will call or text and say, this is what's happening. And so it's like good, like everybody kind of knows, okay, we still have a while, or things are getting closer, like things like that.
Her birth was the trickiest for me because she was dilated to a 6 for like a week
4 days
or whatever. So I canceled everything. I was like, nope, I can't make it. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And then people that I canceled with would call me and be like, oh, did you have a baby? I'm like, oh, sorry, not yet. Not yet. But
that is the birth.
That's the lifestyle. And it's tricky for me. I've learned over births that with my children, I have to be very clear that like I might not be home. So we always have to make a plan. So it's the best, and it can be tricky. So around those births, you just have to be organized.
Plus, if it's a long birth, I have been at a birth. I think the longest birth that I've been like consecutively gone, 36 hours.
Yeah.
So I did not go home. I did not see anyone from my real life for 30, and like there was a few texts going out that it was like, not yet, but it wasn't, but there was very little communication for me. So having a good support system is key.
On your end. Yeah.
It is so imperative that you have somebody that you feel confident can either pick up the slack in your life, or is going to show up, or you can just be like in the middle of the night, hey, I'm leaving. See ya. I'll let you know, kind of thing. So it's, which was a huge blessing to have. And I personally have slowed down. That's also another reason why I raised my prices. I've slowed down a little bit on the doula end, just because having 5 kids, finding a babysitter for 5 kids, little kids too, is a lot harder than it was with 1, 2, 3, and even 4.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And when they're little, and that you don't have to take them to school and dance and piano.
All
and
the things.
All the things. So it's really, I have slowed down too. I have a 14-year-old, and in Idaho, we get driver's license at 15. So I'm just waiting till my daughter gets to be. I have 1 more year, and then once she can drive,
pick up things,
once she can drive, I feel fine about not being around. So it's pretty fun.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to show you my doula bag.
Oh, I should get mine.
You should, because mine was. I don't have all my things, like my Rebozo. I couldn't find it.
I have it.
Do you have it?
I'll see if I can find it. I don't know.
I was trying to reconnect due to poor wireless connection. Okay, hopefully that comes back. But okay, so a few of the things that in fact, I'm going to give away some of the things that I usually keep in my doula bag. So I always have gum or mints, because that's important, and mouthwash, plus toothpaste and a toothbrush. You never know how long you're going to be there, and you are in mama's face, and usually mama's pretty sensitive as to what is happening with her nose and everything. And so a lot of time, at least for me, I'm very nauseous when I'm in labor. So having fresh breath is really important. Chapstick is really, really helpful to have, not only for you, but for others. I usually have honey sticks, like different flavors of honey sticks. You might have seen them at the grocery store. Usually they have them in the checkouts. I don't have them in here right now because it's been a while, but honey sticks for a boost of energy. Like sometimes it's like you're going and it's long and it's hard and it's out there, but but then having some like honey helps a ton. I have tennis balls in my doula bag because these guys, you guys, these are the best things ever. When you're on your way to a labor, when you're in labor, on your way to the hospital or your birth center, wherever you're giving birth, and you have to be in the car and you're in labor, to put the tennis balls behind your back and have those counter pressure, and you lean up against the seat, it feels so good. So I always have tennis balls in my bag. I usually have my rebozo. Oh, she had it. So this is fantastic. It's a Mexican lace shawl. Is the name rebozo. So it's thin, or it's not as wide one direction, but it's super long. And I use this to modify any position a mom gets in to help her feel even more comfortable.
Yeah.
What else?
Did you show your balls? Balls for your back.
Oh, my tennis balls. I usually use tennis balls. She has some nicer ones. These are actually really nice.
I don't know. They're nice. And sometimes you like them and sometimes they don't. It's interesting as labor goes. A mama might like it and hate it and like it and hate it. And then I have a little massager. And then I have like essential oils and quartz. I really love crystals, and I like to bring like an anchor, something that they can rub and brings good energy. So. Yes.
What else do I usually have? Oh, I will bring my birth ball. I've brought my birth ball several times. Yeah. A lot of snacks, water, a pair of socks, just because I like to have fresh new socks that don't stink.
And you know what else I bring that I like is I always bring a notebook and a pen. Write down little things that happen that I want to remember.
And even like things that mom said, or like at this time she was 2 minutes apart, like dilated to this. Yeah, especially because we both write the birth story after, and so it's nice to have those reminders. And yeah, so that's so our giveaway this week is going to be
Who Wants the Giveaway?
Some fun things that you can either put in your hospital bag. Yeah, because here's the deal: it's good to have in your hospital bag.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's the toothbrush, the gum, the mouthwash, the tennis balls, the chapstick, and a couple other fun things.
Yeah.
So
a notebook, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, throw in.
Yeah, we're gonna give you a little
thing.
So we're so glad you were here. If you want, so the giveaway, how we're gonna do the giveaway is everybody who attended our live. So there's not a ton of you. You have a really good chances of winning. Yep. And if you also are signed up for our recap emails, then we will pick one of you to win. And then we'll reach out, DM you for your address. And we're so glad you guys came and you're here. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you will learn something. Hopefully it just reaffirms something, and hopefully it can make your labor and birth a little better. So love you so much.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
Bye.